What is up, my people? Good to see you. I guess I'm seeing you. You're seeing me. Good to see you this Sunday morning. It won't be much longer, hopefully, and we'll all be able to meet back together again. However, we are not going to be meeting on May 3rd. We don't feel like it's time for us to get back together yet. We are staying in touch and getting guidance from the government and from the denomination. So our leadership will keep you all abreast of that. But May 3rd, we are not meeting. Some of y'all, once again, have asked how you can continue to give financially to the church. One way is you just mail in a check. We check the mail every week, and the treasurer gets all those offerings every week that way. Or you can just text this number right there and the amount you want to give. But if you're not in a position to give right now, or if you just stumbled upon this page and this is not your church home, don't feel pressured by any means to give. Lastly, every week, the worship team has been putting together a worship playlist for you guys to use throughout your weekly personal worship, which has really been a blessing. So if you guys want to check that out, we also have a post on Facebook here today of that playlist. Guys, we missed you. We do miss you. And look forward to seeing you guys again in the future. Guys, God bless. So let's talk about turkey hunting. Now, my son and I like to go hunting, and I've been deer hunting since I was younger than he is now. He's currently 11. We go fishing together. We do other outdoor activities, and I'm the dad, and I play that role, and I teach him, and I have experience in these things, and I correct him. This is why we do this. This is why we don't do this. This is how we process a deer. All those kinds of things. And now we're turkey hunting, which is something I've never done. And it's really awkward because we keep screwing up. We're learning together as we learn how to turkey hunt, and we keep scaring the turkeys away. We're too loud. We call too much. They see us. We bust them, and we leave the woods frustrated. We spent hours out there, and the turkeys were there, and we messed it up again, and we walk out of the woods defeated. However, halfway through our walk home, that conversation has to change to, so what are we going to do next time? How are we going to learn from this? What are we going to do differently? There's always another chance. There's the next day. There's still hope in this turkey season, if you will. Enough about turkeys. I think about our own lives. Sometimes we can really feel defeated. We can beat ourselves up, and we don't think about the next opportunity. We don't think about our second chance. Sometimes we carry with us a lot of shame for the mistakes we have made. So today I want to talk about Peter. Just a few weeks ago we had we talked about the crucifixion of Jesus. Good Friday happened. Then we talked about Easter. Jesus rose from the dead, and then he's starting to interact as a risen person, as a risen Savior with his disciples. And today we get to look at his conversation with Peter. So let's give you a little bit of background about Peter. Peter talked a lot. He was always the first with an answer. You know what I mean? He was going to be a leader. He was a leader. He was the guy who Jesus says, your name is Peter, Petra. It comes from the word Petra, which also means rock. And upon this rock I will build the church. And there's a lot of things we can discuss about what that actually means, but still, sounds pretty cool, right? If you're Peter, like, man, what a responsibility, what a burden, really. Peter was the dude who, when the disciples saw Jesus walking on water, everybody else was standing back amazed at the whole situation. And Peter's like, Jesus, let me come out there with you. And Jesus is like, come on, bud, let's go. Come out here. And he walked on the water with Jesus. That's Peter. Jesus, before his crucifixion, he said, you guys are all going to leave me. You're going to forsake me. You're not going to stick by my side. And Peter, once again, really quick with his tongue, he's like, I will never leave you. I will never deny you. Jesus, I will follow you. You are my king. Peter was one of the first ones to call Jesus the Messiah. I will not deny you. And Jesus is like, hey man, look, before the rooster crows 3 times, or before the rooster crows, you're going to deny me 3 times. He's like, no, I'm not going to do that. And then they come to arrest Jesus. You know, here comes the guards and everything to arrest Jesus. And Peter, I can just imagine in my mind's eye, he just looks at Jesus and is like, hey, bud, I love you, but you are wrong on this one. I ain't going to deny you. And he gets out a sword, and he's ready to go fisticuffs. And he chops off one of these dudes' ears that's coming to arrest Jesus. Because he's not going to let it happen, you know. He's going to stick by Jesus. Jesus was wrong on this one. I'm not going to deny you. And then Jesus just flips the script on him. And he says, put your sword away, dude, and actually heals the other dude's ear. And it's like, that's not how this is going down, which was not Peter's plan. Peter has his own plans as to what it looked like to follow Jesus. But Jesus had a different plan. Sometimes we have our own plans of what it looks like for us to follow Jesus. But sometimes Jesus has other plans for us, doesn't he? So the crucifixion starts to take place, and Peter is sticking by Jesus' side. He's within eyesight of Jesus, and people start to asking Peter, aren't you one of those dudes that follow Jesus? You sound like a Galilean. I think, aren't you one of his followers? No, told another person, no, 3 times. He said, no, I'm not. He denied Jesus 3 times. He heard the rooster crow, and oh my gosh, can you imagine the shame he must have felt at that moment? 3 times he denied Jesus. Now, if you're like me, you're thinking, I didn't want to deny you. Why didn't you stick to my plan, Jesus? Like, we could have taken those dudes. You're the Messiah. I had my sword ready. I was swinging. I missed the dude's head. I caught off his ear. I would have got him the next time. My plan's better. I mean, it's not better, Jesus, but it kind of was. Why can't you do things the way I want you to do them? We don't think like that, do we? Maybe sometimes we do. We want God to fall in line with our plans. We will follow Jesus as long as he follows us. Sometimes that can be hard. So, the crucifixion takes place. Jesus begins to start appearing to the disciples. And here we have a situation where Jesus has a little one-on-one time after the resurrection with Peter. Peter takes his boys out fishing. That's what they did. They were fishermen, So let's get back to what we do. We fish, It's interesting. In the past, Jesus had told Peter, I will make you a fisher of men. What he was saying is, we're going to build the church. We're going to lead people to God, and we're going to redeem people. Jesus will redeem people, and Peter will lead them to Jesus. I'll make you fishers of men. Peter's a fisherman. He goes back to fishing. They've had a bad night of fishing, So here we go. We're in John chapter 21, starting in verse 3. Simon Peter said, I'm going fishing. We'll come too, they all said. So they went out in the boat, but they caught nothing all night. At dawn, Jesus was standing on the beach, but the disciples couldn't see who he was. He called out, fellows, have you caught any fish? No, they replied. I mean, if you've ever been fishing all night and didn't catch any fish, I'm sure that this no wasn't, no, we haven't caught any, sir. It was more of a, no, we didn't. Then he said, throw out your net on the right-hand side of the boat, and you'll get some. So they did. And they couldn't haul in the net because there were so many fish in it. We're back to fishing. I think Jesus is teaching us a lot more here than fishing. I think he's telling Peter, hey, I told you we're going to be fishers of men. And hey, I haven't forgot, you're a fisherman. Me and you, we're going to do some fishing together. We're going to fish for men together. Then the disciple Jesus loved, who we believe to be John, said to Peter, "It's the Lord." When Simon Peter heard that it was the Lord, he put on his tunic, for he had stripped for work, jumped into the water, and headed to shore. Once again, Peter, quick instincts, go with your gut. Jesus is over there. We're not paddling the boat over there. Forget these fish. The other guys will take care of them. He's jumping in and swimming to Jesus. The others stayed with the boat and pulled the loaded net to the shore, for they were only 100 yards from shore. When they got there, they found breakfast waiting for them, fish cooking over a charcoal fire, and some bread. "Bring some of the fish you've just caught," Jesus said. So Simon Peter went aboard and dragged the net to the shore. There were 153 large fish, and yet the net hadn't torn. "Now come and have some breakfast," Jesus said. None of the disciples dared to ask, "Who are you?" They knew it was the Lord. Then Jesus served them the bread and the fish. This was the third time Jesus had appeared to his disciples since he had been raised from the dead. He made them breakfast. Isn't that cool? That has to be one of the coolest breakfasts in the history of mankind. Jesus has rose from the dead. They're frustrated after a long night of fishing. Peter's probably still carrying around a lot of shame for denying Jesus, for ditching him. 3 times he denied him. And Jesus shows up, tells them how to catch some fish, gives them hope, redeems the fishing trip. And then he said, "Let's sit down and have a meal together. Let's reconnect here." After breakfast, Jesus asked Simon Peter. So it's the two of them. I don't know where everybody else is at right now, but it's a little bit of, in my mind's eye, it's a little bit of one-on-one time. At least the conversation was one-on-one. "Simon, son of John, do you love me more than these?" "Yes, Lord," Peter replied. "You know I love you." "Then feed my lambs," Jesus told him. The idea of being a shepherd and shepherding God's people, being a pastor, if you will, being a church leader, if you will. "Do you love me? Then I don't take back the things I've said to you in the past about how we're going to be fishers of men. My plan, I still have my plan. It hasn't changed. Do you love me?" He asked once. "Yes, I love you." Then feed my lambs. Jesus repeated the question. "Simon, son of John, do you love me?" He asked twice here. "Yes, Lord," Peter said. "You know I love you." "Then take care of my sheep," Jesus said. A third time he asked him, "Simon, son of John, do you love me?" Peter was hurt that Jesus asked the question a third time. If somebody keeps on asking you the same question, you keep on giving the same answer, the third time you're like, okay, clearly you're not hearing me or you don't believe me. There's a miscommunication here. 3 times you've asked me if I've loved you. He said, "Lord, you know everything. You know that I love you." Jesus said, "Then feed my sheep." This is a mirror right here. 3 times Peter denied Jesus. He screwed up bad. He was supposed to be the guy who was never going to leave Jesus aside. He was going to be the one who was one of the leaders of the church, who started this spiritual revolution. He was on the ground floor of the beginning of the church. That's who he was supposed to be. And he said he wasn't going to deny Jesus. He wouldn't leave aside. And by gosh, he did it just as Jesus said he would. And the shame that comes from that, the reality that he thought his plan was better than Jesus's, and he's ashamed of that and frustrated, right? So, I get frustrated with God. I don't know about you. 3 times he denied Jesus. And now 3 times Jesus asks him, "Do you love me?" And gives him a chance to respond 3 times, "Yes, I do love you." He goes on, I tell you, this is Jesus speaking, I tell you the truth. When you were young, you were able to do as you liked. You dressed yourself and went wherever you wanted to go. But when you are old, you will stretch out your hands, and others will dress you and take you where you don't want to go. Jesus said this to let him know what kind of death he would, by what kind of death he would glorify God. Then Jesus told him, follow me. It's like Jesus saying, Peter, follow me, dude. I forgive you. Let's move on. Look, they're going to come after you too. They hung me on the cross and tortured me to death. They're coming for you too, man. That's going to happen. You're going to get a chance. If you know, that's the reality of your future. I know you love me. Follow me. Follow me. That morning, Peter probably was feeling a lot of things. Maybe he was still a little bit frustrated that Jesus didn't do things the way he thought they should have been done. Maybe more so than that, he was ashamed of denying Jesus 3 times. And he was carrying that with him. And now he can't catch any fish, so he can't make any money, and it's just that's one of the things I think we have to remember. He was not fishing for enjoyment like we do on the weekend. He was fishing to make money, and he ain't making no money. It was a bad day at work, So he's frustrated and feeling ashamed and just beat down and defeated, and nothing's going right. I used to be good at fishing. This is the thing that I had control of. I was good at this. And now I can't even do that right today. And it's a bad day, right? He's carrying shame. And Jesus invites him in. He sits him down. They share a meal together. And he's like, Peter, I don't change. You can always count on me. We still have big plans. And I forgive you. He gave him the chance 3 times to say he loved him after he denied him 3 times. I think we need to hear this. I think a lot of us today, I think a lot of you are carrying around shame because you've screwed up. We're not here to say you haven't screwed up. I know I've screwed up. Peter knows he's screwed up. The only one who hasn't screwed up is Jesus. Jesus is a God of redemption. He redeems situations. He redeems us. We're not here to say that our past mistakes weren't mistakes, because they were. But if we repented of those, what that means, repent is a term that means we were going this way, and we made the decision, and we've turned and went the other way. If we confess those to God, we don't need to continue to feel shame for them, to carry that on our shoulders. It doesn't mean that you weren't guilty of them. It doesn't mean that you should be proud of them. It doesn't mean that we shouldn't make amends for the wrong things that we've done. But we don't need to carry around this shame, this burden. Any punishment that you deserve from God, Jesus already paid the penalty of that punishment on the cross. Jesus loves you that much. He hasn't given up on you. He still has a plan for your life. Even though you have shame, even though you've screwed up, remove that shame from your life. It's time to move on. It's time to continue to follow Jesus. So that's what a walk with Jesus often looks like. It's like a toddler walking. It's stumbling and then getting back up, taking a few steps, stumbling and getting back up. At least that's what my walk with Christ has looked like. So this week, ask God to help you remove the shame from your shoulders, because He's already paid the penalty. Any penalty that you deserve from God, He's already paid for on the cross. Trust Him in that. Follow Jesus. Remember that He still has a plan for your life. Guys, God bless. Have a great week.